You're beginning to join me. Um, right. So, welcome to today's webinar. I'm going to kill a little bit of time just to wait a few minutes for people to start turning up. In the meantime, um, do let me know in the chat um, that you can hear me. And, and I'm going to quickly prepare the slides to start sharing with you. One thing I would love to know from you is why you decided to join this webinar and where you're from. If you could post that into the chat, it would be great so that I can know a little bit more about you, make the examples. And, I like to generally tweak the webinar for the people who are on it. So the more we can let you know about yourself and why you're here, the better tailored the presentation will be for you. Okay, so let me quickly bring up some slides. So let's bring that up. Excellent. Okay. Very good. Okay, excellent. So I can see in the chat. Very good. Yes, you can hear me. Thank you very much. I can see we have Rachel from Oregon and Paul from the UK. Excellent. Yeah, they're different. Okay, so you're interested in different marketing methods. And you'd like to develop a coaching program for creative writers. Very good. Very interesting. Yes. So definitely, there's a lot there. There's a lot to do when it comes to developing programs for creative writers with all these new AI tools. And yes, we're also going to talk about different marketing methods and also one of my favorite things, which is making sure that everyone picks the right marketing method for their business and for themselves. So we're going to go through a few of those things. Excellent. Very good. Okay, so it's still a little early, it's still 2 minutes past. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to start slow, but I'm going to jump right in. Okay, so let me know in the chat that you can see my presentation. And let's jump right in. So today's webinar is about getting coaching clients with a peppering of AI. Okay, I can see that too. Excellent. Thank you. Very good. So I can see you can see it. Very good. Excellent. Right. Okay, so today's webinar is about getting coaching clients plus AI. And in reality, dealing with coaching clients is something I have done for a lot of years. And AI has become one of those things that we really cannot ignore anymore. It's like I myself have been in the last 4 months have been doing a lot of training, in-person training and speaking about AI. So of course, it is something that has now become very much part and parcel of my business. But of course, it's not just about AI. It's about getting the foundations right. It's about so many other things. And I think one of the things that a lot of people get wrong is that focus too much on AI or focus too much on doing things the old-fashioned way, whereas bringing the two things together is actually really powerful. Okay, so for those of you who have just joined, because I was just about to start the presentation, do pop your names into the chats while I can see those. Just let me know why you're here, because I do like to customize the webinar based on the people who are here. So do let me know why you're here so that I can take a peek as soon as I can. So let's dive straight in. So this webinar is about a few things. So it's for new coaches who want to set up strong business foundations. Of course, there's also those coaches who already have a business. And if you already have a business, you can actually use the information in the business foundations because our business foundations can always be tweaked and refined. And that is what helps us go to the next level. Um, we also It's also for new coaches who are setting up marketing processes. Again, not necessarily just new coaches. I mean, one of the things I really believe in is that the only way to achieve a goal is to create a process that helps you get there. If we don't have the processes that help us achieve a goal, it's very, very hard to get there. So processes are very big in my coaching business. It's one of the most important things for me. Of course, if you don't already have those, and also if you do have them, I think it's really healthy to actually go back and revisit them. So that's one of the things we're going to talk about. We're also going to talk about the elephant in the room, that a lot of people are actually seeing a decrease in leads. They're seeing a decrease in leads from every single touch point. Marketing has been a little bit shakier than usual this year, of course, with the onset of AI and all the changes in Google and all the changes in ads, and even social media is going through some changes. So we're going to talk about all these things, and we're going to understand what you can do to actually start working towards increasing those leads again. So it's really important to understand the lay of the land. Once again, I usually do not stop during the presentation to take a look at questions, but when you have a question, do put it in the chat. There's actually a questions button, if I remember well. No, okay, so you can just put your questions in the chat. Just put a Q and put your question so that when I finish the webinar, I can actually go in and I will answer your questions, because if questions come up, I think it's important to have them answered. So I will go through the whole presentation, but if you pop your question in the chat, I will actually answer it for you at the end of the webinar. Right. Okay. So then another important thing is it's for coaches who want to have maybe a second or third source of leads. It's something that's very important. We're going to look at. We're going to, of course, also look at how AI is going to help you do all of these different things. And one of the things I've been dealing with a lot lately is also therapists who are becoming coaches. I think this is becoming quite a trend. So that if that's you, um, stay for the ride. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to take a look at the solid foundations. And the main reason why we're going to look at foundations, you see me do this, there's a really annoying fly. I don't know if you can see it, but it's the fly season here in Malta. Okay, so solid foundations. Solid foundations are very important. Sometimes we need to refine them. Well, ideally, every year at least take a look at the foundations of your business and refine them. So we're going to take a look at what makes up the foundations of your business and how we make sure that we're getting them right and also at the right stage of business. We're going to take a look at picking the right marketing strategies for your business and also for your business phase. We're also going to keep in mind what's going on out there. This is a very important ongoing conversation. We're going to look at how to listen to the market. Very, very important. And we have some amazing AI tools these days that are really good at this. And then we're also going to look at how to leverage AI tools to speed up your content creation, but also to enhance you as a coach. I believe that we are at a very important point in history. And as coaches who are actually operating now, I see that there is a lot of fear that, people will think that they can just go to the AI, ask questions, feel better about their issue and not work with a coach. I believe that that is not really possible. If you've been working with clients for some time, you probably know that it's very difficult for a client to achieve what they achieve with you. They want the hand holding, they want the human connection, they want the support. They also want the relationship with the coach. But I think it's up to us coaches to actually explain to clients how we are adding value, how it is different, how AI is enhancing coaching. And then we have to be the ones to guide them into understanding how how different things happen. So where they are getting the value, why they need us, and how AI is actually changing coaching. I think we need to step up and actually be the leaders and actually help people understand this. Okay, and then I'm going to give you access to some free AI tools which I have created. Um, and I will explain how potentially you can create those for yourself. For those of you who don't know me yet, I'm a marketing coach and business mentor for online coaches. I help people. I have a bachelor's degree in education. I have worked online for over 10 years. I started my online business in 2014. I used to own a 360 agency, marketing agency for more than 12 years. And I also had a couple of small businesses before that. So my experience is pretty vast when it comes to marketing, but I have still been through the ringers of actually trying and testing and building my business step by step on my own online. So, it, when you have those difficulties, I completely understand what you mean, because in spite of the fact that I had all these marketing skills, I still had to learn, how to actually do it. Okay, so that's about me. Few pictures. I love to always put this picture because everyone used to laugh when I was a kid because I wouldn't let go. And one of the reasons why I like that is because I think that is actually the secret to building a great business. And which is basically making sure that you stay in the game, persistence. If you stay in the game long enough, you will learn enough to make it work. So sometimes the strategy is, how do we make sure that we are making enough money, we're making the right moves to actually stay in the game until we hit that nice level of income and lifestyle that we actually want. Okay, so let's jump right in. So the first slide is about solid foundations. And here is what I feel is what makes a solid foundation in the business. These are, in fact, the 4 touch points that I work with my clients with when they're starting completely from scratch. And usually, even if they are already making 6 figures, sometimes 7, 8 figures, revisiting these foundations is really going to help you go to the next level. Obviously, if we tackle them in the right way, based on the business phase. So one of the most important things is that all these 4 things are aligned. So let's take a look at the niching process. The niching process is something that can get people really, really stuck. And it's something that in reality never stops happening in your business. I find that people struggle with this probably mostly in the beginning because they don't really have experience. So they find it a little bit hard to understand where to choose, what niche to choose, how to choose, and all of that. And in fact, I work with a lot of clients sort of to help them pick that niche in the beginning. However, this is something that doesn't stop, and I think this is something a lot of people don't understand. Niching tends to be a little bit like an hourglass, and that's why I've put this image together. Because in the beginning, it's normal that maybe you might start with 2 or 3 or even 4 different target markets, to try and test, especially if you're doing your coaching hours. Then you narrow down in order to be able to lift, to do your marketing well enough and reach enough people and be clear in your marketing. It's important that we narrow down to one niche. And then once you hit 6 figures, generally, maybe not exactly 6 figures, you go maybe a little bit higher than your first like 100K, then you can start opening up again to different markets. And that is when you can exponentially also increase your income. And this is perfectly normal. A lot of people feel that they have to choose one target audience and stick with that for the long haul. But in reality, the way it works tends to be a little bit different. Another thing that a lot of people misunderstand is what is actually niching. So, niching is not just about picking an industry, especially for coaches. It can be a phase of life, it can be a diagnosis, it can be something they've got like ADHD or fibromyalgia or something of the sort. It could be a struggle or a desire. So, something like, here are a couple of examples, like if it could be a SaaS founders in their 50s, it could be retired people with a desire for adventure, it could be the parent of a child with ADHD, it could be a menopausal woman, it could looking to grow muscle. So it can be any of these combinations put together. And I think one of the main reasons why people struggle to niche is because they feel that a niche should feel like something that already exists and someone has given a name to. They're looking for something that already has a name. It doesn't necessarily have to be a name in the sense, like, it doesn't have to be like an industry. So you can actually carve out your own niche. And the great thing about that is that when you do that, your your competition becomes completely irrelevant because of course you're going to pick your niche based on your strengths, based on your life experience, based on your coaching experience, and based on the results you're already achieving. So that is niching in a nutshell. The second step to making sure that you have you have strong foundations, because of course, whenever we go to marketing, we cannot really go to marketing unless all of our foundations are strong. And of course, if you've been doing this for a while, you will understand the value of just returning to refine your foundations so that you can actually feed all of that back into your marketing. So it becomes a consistent cycle during our business. So the second thing is the messaging process. Once we definitely know what the niche are, then what the niche is, we can then go to the messaging process. And generally, the messaging process is going to be the message to actually have clear messaging. We want to go through a process which is based, of course, on our knowledge of the niche, but it's also it also has a very clear process where you need to find your core message. And your core message is usually connecting your niche to what you do for people, to the struggle that you work for. So you need to find a way to position yourself as the best solution for the struggle that you resolve. And here are 3 simple steps that you can use. And actually, one of the things, say, this is a clear example. For instance, this is one of the processes that I do with my clients. Actually, all of the slides you're going to see today are actually describing one of the small processes that I work on with my clients. And an interesting use, in fact, of AI for these things is that I have actually created GPTs and I have created, like when you have a coaching tool, for instance, I've been on the receiving end with my own coaches and also my own therapist, where, you go to a coaching session and they have the step-by-step process. They have this tool and it's great while you're on the session. You have all this clarity and you understand. But then when you go away and let's say something triggers you or you need to think something over to finish your work maybe until the next coaching session, it's a little bit difficult to kind of completely absorb what the tool was about because it can have a little bit of a complex, of a multi-step complex process sometimes. And this is where GPTs come really, really handy. In fact, they are extremely, extremely good tools to be able to then support. So they're not replacing you. You're still doing the process with your client, but then after the session, they can actually spend some time working with the GPT, which is ultimately talking like you. It's your ideas, it's your voice, it's the support the client needs, but it's an amplification of what you do. It's not actually replacing you. So, and this is actually one of the things that can actually work like that. So the messaging process is very important. And the messaging, again, a lot of people feel like they have to have this one short sentence that works for absolutely everything. It's not necessarily that way, like if you have a corporate ideal client, if you have a corporate audience, maybe you do B2B, and then you also have a B2C audience where you're working with maybe regular life coach clients, then it's going to make quite a difference to the way you obviously describe yourself. And you don't just have to describe yourself in one specific way. You can have different ways because the way you describe yourself on social might be a little different to the way you describe yourself on the website. Again, everything has to be coherent and everything has to connect with the next thing that we're going to see, which is the packages. The packages, I think, are actually the glue that hold your whole company together. And in fact, if you go to my website or my YouTube channel, you're going to find so much information about creating packages. Because if you have the wrong package, you're going to really reduce the amount of sales. Even if you attract the right ideal clients, you're not going to sell as much. And you're also going to not quite get the right results you want to get for clients. You're also not going to have this sort of strong vision of the business. It's not going to feel strong. It's going to feel like things are disjointed. In fact, when we talk about foundations, probably the most important thing is that your packages, your ideal client, and your messaging are completely aligned. Once those three things are aligned, you can move on to the marketing, and your marketing will be quite a no-brainer in terms of creating the content. Obviously, there are certain skills that we need, like, finding out what people are searching and things like that. But those three things are extremely important. And here are some tips on how to get really strong coaching packages. So it's important that it aligns with your ideal client's strongest pain points. And obviously, outlining and knowing who your ideal client is very important, knowing the whole customer journey. But you need to identify which ones are those pain points that are so strong that are going to make them buy. Because you need to know where that motivation comes from. If someone's going to throw money at something, then it's going to hurt quite a lot. So you need to find out which are the top two or potentially three pain points, because those are the ones that need to become your package names, that need to become the main outcomes of your packages, and that need to be the things that really are discussed ultimately on your discovery calls. Another thing when you're creating your packages, which I find really works, and a lot of people are afraid of this, is offer as much support as you possibly can in the beginning. Most people will actually not use all the support that you offer them. So it's like the percentage of people who use a lot of support are actually usually very small. So in the beginning, it's great to offer as much support as you can, and then you'll find out what people are actually using. And over time, you will know what support to offer, and you'll be able to explain to your future clients or to people you're talking to on discovery calls why you're actually picking those particular support channels. Again, looking for patterns from day one, from the minute you're like doing your free coaching to get your certification, look for patterns. Very, very important. Because those patterns will eventually become your signature process and your signature coaching package. The signature coaching package is very important. It's going to be your highest, highest paid coaching package, and it will also be the one that is based on your blueprint and actually gets the best results for your clients. And ideally, you want to start creating that from day one. You cannot actually start offering it from day one, but what you can do is start collecting information to create it from day one. And you do that by looking for the patterns. Very important, no 1 hour sessions. I say this ad nauseum. There are very, very tiny maybe very tiny point. So 0.01% of people might be an exception to this. But if you offer 1 hour sessions, what you're doing generally is stealing from yourself. Because what tends to happen is that if people meet you on a discovery call and they don't know you, they're going to go for most people are averse to risk. So they're going to go for the cheapest package instead of for the biggest outcome. So when you offer a 1 hour session, you're stealing from yourself and from your clients, because in that 1 hour session, they could have bought a program to work with you instead and gotten actual results. But instead, you're stealing money from yourself because you have to keep selling so much more for just 1 hour. And your clients are very likely not going to get results. I only recommend making an exception if people are book the 1 hour session very easily, and then you can use that 1 hour session to upsell them to one of your packages. However, this is very rare. I've seen it happen effectively with career coaches, but generally, it can be very hard to upsell people from a 1 hour session because they think that they got a lot of value, but what they don't realize is they need actual support to implement the work. It's not all about the information. And now they're going to get a lot of information and they're going to feel, wow, I really know exactly what to do. And they're not going to get most of it done. And that way they don't get the results. So stick to packages as much as possible. A lot of people ask me, do I need the 3 packages? No, you can actually start off with 1 or 2. But 3 packages is generally used so that you have a very high value package for people who want to work with you in the long run, the middle tier package, which is your signature process, which is what you normally sell, and then a lower package for people who maybe are already halfway through the journey and don't need you to work with them from sort of the very beginning of your process. Important that you price your packages for client value, because a lot of people find it hard to price. Again, this is a complete different webinar for itself. Pricing is very important, and it needs to help you reach your goals. It needs to it needs to make sure that the client understands the value. It needs to actually get your client motivated to do the work. And it needs to keep you competitive. There are so many things to actually keep in mind. And what tends to happen here is that in the beginning, people are quite jittery about pricing. One thing I love to do with my clients is I create a little game. So most people are more comfortable selling cheaper packages in the beginning. So you can start off maybe with a cheaper price. You tell people it's a discounted price. And then when you've booked, say, your first 6 clients, you go to the next price level. And then when you book another 10 clients, you get the courage to go to the next price level. And this really, really helps, because you need to be comfortable with the price you're selling. Otherwise, people are going to pick up on the fact that you don't feel so comfortable. And that will actually get in the way of how many sales you actually close. Okay. So the next thing is tech, of course. Once you've got all these foundations in place, it's important that you have confidence in your technology, that you are clear about what you need, that you have all the processes that make the different things happen. So your onboarding, your marketing, any automation, I mean, even your accounting, anything that needs a process, is important that you create the process and you automate it. One of the things that I mentioned in the beginning is that I don't believe in, setting goals and creating a plan and working towards it. I believe in creating a process that makes you do the things that will achieve that goal. Because when you do that, you eventually are going to see that goal materialize. And you can actually really enjoy the process. You like get lost in the process, and suddenly you will realize that you've hit your goal. Without the process, it's practically very, very difficult, because you won't have focus. That's what the process does, actually. The way the process is giving you focus without you having to focus. So you do the work once, you create the process, and then you see the results. Obviously, because we're talking about processes, automation is extremely important as single person businesses. And today we cannot talk about automation without talking about AI. And this is something I have really been enjoying in my business. Like I mentioned in the beginning, in the last few months, I have been doing speaking, and I have been also running in person events about AI. And I have seen the developments and the way it's changing people do marketing. And it's the results at the moment, it's amazing. And I think as single person businesses, as solopreneurs, we have a very, very big chance here. Large companies take ages to shift to new technologies. And with AI, there's all these compliance issues. But as single person businesses, we can move fast. And that means that we can actually make sure that we can use this window to actually get as much visibility and as much marketing out there as possible, and actually win market share before everybody else is beginning to do that. And at the moment, there are those who are. So you want to be one of the first, because obviously, the more people use AI, the more people automate, the more volume of content, the more volume of visibility there is going to be there. And we want to make sure that we are the first to win that market share. And also, as coaches, I think it's important to position yourself as an AI enabled coach. And we need to be having this conversation with our audiences, with our potential clients, with the people we talk to on discovery calls, because it's there. AI is the elephant in the room. And when someone's talking to you, they're thinking, I really need to work with this person, or will AI do it? And it's there. Everyone's tried it. Everyone's gone to ChatGPT and tried to use them as a therapist or a coach, including therapists and coaches. We are just as guilty as everyone else. So it's very important that we start seeing ourselves as AI enabled coaches, and we start telling people what that means and why that is better for the client. But it is not a replacement, it is an enhancement. Okay, so that was the section about foundations. I haven't seen too many questions pop up, but if just a little reminder, if you have questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. The next thing is about marketing strategies. And one thing I'm very big on in my business is actually helping people pick the right marketing strategies. The reason why I'm big on this is because I found that so many people misled me when I started my online business. And like the a lot of gurus selling these big courses and training people. They usually, I mean, their strategies work. I'm a big believer. I have worked in marketing for many years. I started off as a programmer back in, I think I developed my first website in 2003. So it's been a very long time. I've been in marketing, working with marketers and marketing agencies for a very long time. And what I have seen with the years is that every single marketing strategy works. There is no such thing as a marketing strategy that doesn't work. Marketing strategies that don't work don't get talked about. The problem, however, is that it's very important to pick the right marketing strategy for your business and for your business phase. So it's important that you're picking the right strategy for what you're selling. So for your resources, and your resources are usually time and budget. And as a solopreneur, also for your personality. So these are actually the four things in a nutshell that you need to consider when you take a look at a marketing strategy and you want to find out if it's the right thing for you. So you need to take a look at how much time you have, because generally, if you're starting out and you don't have much of a budget and you want to go organic, you're going to need to put in more time. If you have a budget, you can probably speed things up a little bit by throwing some money at ads. And also, you also need to keep in mind your skills. So if you do have the skills to deliver the strategies that you need, and if you don't, you need to learn those skills. So it's very important that you keep in mind the skills that you have, because you cannot pick a strategy based on the skills you have in the beginning when you're starting a business. It helps if you have some skills, but if you don't discard the strategy. You actually have to learn those skills. And whether it's through a mini course or whether it's through working with a one-to-one coach, it's important, because that's going to make all the difference. And one thing that I think is very much underestimated is the personality. Every marketing strategy you choose needs to be consistent. Consistency is what scales a marketing strategy, is what scales a business. Now, ideally, you should have more than one marketing strategy, a long term and a short term, although that's probably a webinar for another time. But when you pick your marketing strategies, keep in mind your personality. It's like I said before, every marketing strategy works, but keep in mind what you do. So for instance, if you're video shy and you find it really hard to record video, then don't let your coach push you into a place where you must do video, because what's going to happen is you're going to do it. You're going to do it for a while, and then it's going to feel so hard that you're going to drop it. So pick something that is actually goes with your personality. If you love to write, write. If you love to do video. And today with AI, again, very, very importantly, for instance, you can create a process where you're doing what you love, but you can repurpose using AI into all these different formats. At the moment, I believe that we're looking at a time where there's a bit of a magic. Maybe magic's not the word, but I like to use the word magic. It's a bit of a magic sort of moment, in the sense that actually social media is at a stage where they're showing more visibility again. We're kind of back to 2012, where you can actually be discovered as someone who doesn't have a large following. So actually repurposing with AI is a very big opportunity here. And we can talk about this a little bit more later. But one of the things I wanted to explain is that when you look at your time, see, this is one of the things a lot of my clients get very shocked about. When you graduate, when you get your coaching certification, one thing a lot of people are not told is that you're probably going to spend about 60% of your time marketing in the first couple of years of your business. And a lot of people find this overwhelming and they get very, very upset because they're still going through the mindset shift, which a lot of people don't talk about. I'm not a life coach, but I spend a lot of my time working with my clients on mindset, because when you actually go from maybe quitting your job, your corporate job, and becoming a coach, you're going through the mindset shift from employee to entrepreneur. And that is a very big mindset shift. It doesn't happen overnight. There are so many things that you need to learn, apart from the actual skills to do your marketing and build your business. There are all these other things that are hidden, that are like resilience and, how you deal with your own fears. And also there's a difference on how people process these things, whether you have ADHD, whether you have trauma in your past. All of these things are going to affect how you set up your business. So it's not a level playing field. That's why it's important to be kind to yourself, and whenever you can actually get support, because it's not an easy journey. So the next thing is to think is of a budget. So generally, you can get, you've all heard the overnight success stories. And then you find out that these people were laid off and got a very big pay packet and, spent 60 grand on ads in the first 3 months of their business. And of course, that's going to be a very different story to someone who quit their corporate job, has 3 kids, has just been through a divorce, and actually does not really have much budget for ads, needs to go organic. So the time scales and the way you build your business are actually going to be all about you, your story, and when you are. And I think one of the things we really need to do is stop being on someone else's timeline and stop looking at other people's stories, because when you start your own coaching business, you are building your own story. You're not on someone else's timeline. You are not those coaches you look up to. They have a completely different story. Maybe they had a completely different support network. And you need to focus on just doing the next best thing that you can for yourself. And I think this is where resilience is very important, which comes with time. It's not something you can just buy at the supermarket. It doesn't come off the shelf. It actually comes from overcoming things and feelings and fears on a daily basis. And also, I think it's a matter of really beginning to understand how to make the right decisions. And very often, we cannot kick ourselves because we understand how to make the right decisions by making the wrong ones. In fact, one of the things I always say is, no matter how much training you've got, I'm always wary of the business coaches that have made no mistakes. Because if you don't make mistakes, you very likely are not actually 100% clear about why things have worked. Whereas when you make a lot of mistakes and you know exactly why things went wrong, then you're making the right mistakes because you know exactly what you've done wrong in the past. So anyway, that's my personal opinion. Okay, so let's go to the next thing. The skills, you need to develop the skill set, very important. So this is something to really focus on in the beginning of your business. Develop the skill set to actually deliver the strategies yourself. And I'm a big believer that even if you have the money to outsource them to someone else, you should learn the skill set yourself. And that's one of the reasons why I actually stopped the done for you a long time ago after the agency. And I did do a little bit of it recently, but I completely stopped it because I believe that it's much better for a coach, even if they want to outsource, to really know the process of the marketing. Because then when you're picking someone to do the work, you know exactly how they should be performing, you know exactly the kind of people you need. And you can understand whether they really know what to do for your business, because there's a lot of agencies and freelancers out there selling to coaches who actually don't quite understand the business, because coaching is a very people-centered business. And when you have a very people-centered business, it's not for everyone, especially when you're dealing with technical people. They may not have the natural empathy to act, and also the skills to be able to go really deep on the people side of the business. And important, like I said before, personality. Consistency is key. So go with your personality. What marketing feels easy to you? If the marketing feels easy to you, or maybe you're building a process, make sure that you do things that feel easy. If something is getting in the way, like for instance, when I first started blogging, I used to blog. I used to take forever to write my articles, not the first draft. So I could actually dish out the first draft really, really quickly. But then every time I went into my WordPress site to publish it, I would start re-editing it. And I would take forever to lay it out because I was such a perfectionist. So what was supposed to take me maybe between 30 minutes and an hour for each blog post was now taking me twice, three times the time. So I realized that there is a stumbling block there. My personality does not allow me to do this task fast. So I found someone on Fiverr. Well, actually, I found a few people. It's on Fiverr. It's always good to find a few people, give them the same task, and then pick the best one. That's how you find good people on Fiverr. And I found this person who could actually do the job for me for about $8 per article, and she was doing a great job. And what that meant was that by spending those 8 hours per article, I was actually saving myself an hour and a half. And we all know an hour and a half of coaching, of course, costs more than $8. So it was very worthwhile because it didn't get me stuck. So this is another sort of mindset hack. How do you hack your own mindset so that the process that you need to do in your marketing actually feels smooth and easy for you? Sometimes it's really not a matter of just outsourcing the whole lot. It's a matter of building it and then outsourcing the bits that gets you stuck. Okay, so here are some self-coaching questions about your marketing strategies. So important to think which ones are right for your business phase. Now, obviously, this is a big question in the sense that what's going to dictate this is how much resources you have, resources being time and money mostly, and also skills. And also sort of the speed with which you need to make money, because there are coaches who have quit their job and they need to make money right away. And then there are those who maybe have a part-time job or are still in employment and want to build it at a different pace. Again, just a little bit as a side note, I always say to people, maybe quitting your job before you actually know how to build a business is not the smartest thing to do. Quite a few people actually are successful at that, but not everyone. And I sometimes see people about to give up, and it breaks my heart to see coaches who really want to make a difference do that. So I always tell people, listen, if you need to go back and get a part-time job, it's fine. Whatever keeps you in the game. Because if you stay in the game, you will win eventually. But if you fall out of the game, it's not going to serve anyone because you're just going to go back and you're not going to help the clients you could have helped. And you're not going to be as happy, fulfilling, the impact you want to achieve. So yeah, if you need to get a part-time job in the meantime, because your business isn't growing fast enough, it's fine because, there's a learning curve there. And sometimes we just give ourselves this idealistic kind of hero scenario where I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to get, really big, really fast. And sometimes we find that in reality, that cannot happen for us because, we're not the CEO that quit their job and got a big redundancy package. So it's going to be a bit different for us. So don't be too hard on yourself. Okay, so the next question, which strategies align with the resources you have available? That is very important that you align those two things. Which strategies and touch points align with your personality? So are you more of a YouTuber? Are you more of a podcaster? Are you more of, do you like to email people? Do you like to speak to them personally? Do you like to write blogs? I have actually helped people build all of these strategies and they have all worked. And the only discerning factor here is the personality. And again, of course, we can use AI to repurpose and reach a lot more visibility today. Okay, and then how can I speed up and automate? And here, I must have gone on my lunch break. I've forgotten the other half of the sentence. But I think that's enough, actually. How can I speed up and automate the process that I have created around this marketing process? And I think that's very important because we have so many tools and it is competitive out there. And the more mental bandwidth we can leave for us to rest, enjoy our lives, and actually coach clients, which is something that, usually if you're if you're into it and your heart's really into it, coaching is going to energize you. It's not going to drain you. So it's one of those things that you want to spend more time doing if possible. So make sure that your processes are actually there to save you as much time as possible. One of the things that I always tell my training clients these days when we start the AI workshop is you have to do a mental shift. So when you're everything that you're doing, you have to think, is there a way for me to actually automate this or make this easier for myself with AI? The first time you build the tool to do it with AI or you build the prompt, it might take you longer. Maybe it's going to take you an hour longer or a couple of hours longer than it would have done. However, in the long run, it's really going to save you a lot of time. I mean, I actually reduce a simple 10-minute process to a 2-minute process in my onboarding. But when I'm onboarding a lot of clients at once, it makes a massive difference because it doesn't feel difficult anymore. So it's really important to think like that. So another very, very important thing, which we can do amazingly well with AI, I'm actually going really deep on this at the moment. I'm also developing a tool for it, is listening to the market. One of the things that AI has really helped us with is finding ways of collecting large amounts of information and then breaking it down and um, understanding what people are doing. And I'm going to give you some examples in just a minute. But first, I'd like to sort of explain the process that I tend to use. So, very important. The first thing is to do your ideal client persona documentation. So if you've been working with a few clients, what you need to do is sit down and actually document what these clients are actually like, their journey. So where do they start feeling the first struggle that you resolve? And how do they evolve to a place? How do they think? What do they learn until they come to a place where when they understand that they need to work with a coach like you to resolve this issue? So that is basically the client's journey, which is also the persona documentation. And a lot of new coaches, or even coaches sometimes that have been in business 1, 2, or 3 years, find it difficult to actually pin this down really clearly. So one of the things I usually recommend is to do things like surveys and questionnaires. So especially if you haven't had the chance to really work with a lot of people, it's good to find communities. I've put it down. In fact, you can use Facebook, Slack, Reddit. You can find these communities where your ideal client is and actually share surveys. You can ask the admin most of the time. It's like ideal. And actually run questionnaires and surveys and really understand how they talk about their issues and what kind of solutions they're seeking. You can also have com- conversations and actually talk to people directly in those groups. SEO is an interesting one as well. So you can use SEO tools that tell you what keywords and what questions people are actually looking for. And these will give you a very good idea of the kind of language people use to describe the difficulties that you solve. You can use, of course, ChatGPT, Kimi, Claude, Gemini, all these LLM chats to actually understand what questions your ideal clients are asking about their issues. You can, of course, ask your clients about coaching hours and also like during your coaching hours when you're actually charging, and also especially during the onboarding process. What I've done with AI, and actually, if this is something you do, actually, I would like to see if you're interested in this because I've created it and I could share it with you after after the after the webinar. So one of the things I've created, for instance, is that I have onboarding calls with my clients. My clients also fill up onboarding forms. And that is what I like to call the sort of the magic moment, because at that point in time, you're dealing with a person who is ready to pay for what you're selling because they have the right pain point that you resolve, but you haven't educated them. So they're not talking like you yet. They are still talking like your ideal client. They are still using the words that your ideal client uses. And therefore, they're using the words that you should inject into your messaging and into your marketing. So there's like this magic window there. And what I've been doing is basically I have created a GPT, which is a ChatGPT tool that you create yourself. It's actually a very simple process. And what I do is I basically feed it the onboarding forms and I'm constantly training it more with the onboarding forms and the onboarding video recordings. And what it does is it actually uh, gives me the ideal client persona documentation, and it builds the customer journey for me. And it's a fantastic tool because then it's like, using a much bigger brain than mine to process all this information I wouldn't be possibly humanly be able to process. And it gives it to you in any format that you want. Another one very important is deep research. So one of the chat GPT specifically uses deep research. Kimi has it as well. I believe this is something that most of them have some kind of model for. So when you go into research mode with AI, one of the things you can do is have a really good prompt to tell it to go out there and listen to the market. Now, one of the things that you can do is you want to know what objections people have to working with you, what they say about their problem and their struggle. So once you have the ideal client persona, you could actually create deep research prompt and actually tell it to go out there and find out exactly what these people are saying is their biggest pain point, what they're complaining about, because maybe there are complaints about coaches that I have already worked with that didn't help, and they can probably give you some insight on what didn't help as well, which can actually help move you towards the things that you don't want to do. You also want to hear their objections, which are very important because those should always go in your content so that people come to you on the discovery call and they have already been over their objections. Um, so there is actually a lot of things you can do with deep research to listen to the market. Then you have your onboarding. Onboarding, like I said, very important. You need to, of course, listen yourself like a human being, but also feed as much of that information to AI, and it can really help you outline, define your clients very well. Okay. Okay, so how are we going to use AI effectively without screwing yourself as a coach or a marketer? And why do I say this? Is because sometimes I see people like coaches, I've seen coaches actually talking about AI. They have stopped coaching out of probably fear that they will be completely obliterated by AI. And they've now become AI coaches. And in the process, they have actually killed their business because they're telling everyone that, oh, now you need AI, you don't need coaches. But that is actually not true. And also, as a marketer, I think it can really ruin your marketing. It can really ruin your marketing because you can do a little bit too much of it. And it stops being personal, it stops being client centered. So this is definitely an important one. But in your business, you can speed up a lot of things. So you can do your counting, your one very important thing that I've been using a lot is using AI within your sessions. And this is very important. And support tools in between sessions that actually provide support and provide more of what you would provide in between sessions, and it can really help you actually have more clients at once. Analysis, like we said, it can help you analyze clients' progress and improve actually your packages over time, because that we always feed more information. And of course, with marketing, it can help you with copy, repurposing, ads, SEO. It can help you with anything in marketing, but you have to be really careful because you need to make sure that you've trained it to understand your ideal client, that you've trained it to uh, understand how you speak and what your opinions and your perspectives are, so that it's enhancing who you are. It is not actually coming up with stuff that comes from the internet, from other people. So that's very important that it stays authentic to who you are. Okay, so what can we do sort of in the context of your business? What AI tools can you use? So the first thing that I normally sort of work with clients is obviously when I teach sort of the whole process of creating the marketing and the core foundations of the business. We first look at the human side, but then we start working with things like swipe files and guides and checklists and things like that, and examples. And all of these tools can then be used with prompts from AI to actually create more content. So, for instance, let's say one of the things I do with my clients is I give them a template that we actually build together to have a sales page for the coaching packages that we have designed. So we do the package and then we do the sales page. And one of the things we can do today very easily is then once the client totally understands how things work and why they actually work, what the conversion triggers are, then we can actually feed those into AI and we can actually create them for new packages. So once you have the basics in place, AI is a very good tool to be able to produce, the same level of content because you have the process and you can share that with it. Again, prompting is one of those things that thanks to agents as well now can go to the next level. So knowing how to prompt your AI properly is very, very important because a normal prompt is actually going to give you not a great result usually. It means that you spend a lot of time tweaking and giving it more information and telling it not to do this and not to do that. So learning advanced prompting will actually help you how to get the AI to do what you want with one prompt. And that's very important for speed because otherwise, if you're not saving time, it's not even worth the time. So then you have GPTs, and GPTs are actually like little programs. I will actually show you just a few in a minute. Actually, we could go into it right away. Let me bring it up. So I can show you some GPTs that I've created. Basically, the only difference between GPTs and advanced prompting is so GPTs are always there in the sense they're like little tools that let me actually show you. I think that's easier. So let's bring it up. Okay. Uh, I'm gonna switch the share. Okay. Here we are. So when you go to your chat GPT, these are your GPTs. And basically GPTs are just inbuilt little tools. And like we said, these can be coaching tools. So for instance, let's see if I have, yeah, so this is the one I was talking about before. So I have, oops, that's the wrong one. Where did it go? Yeah, this one. So this creates an ideal client avatar from the onboarding call transcripts. And this one, for instance, you feed it a blog post and it will put, and then it will ask you what your keyword is and it will put the keyword in the right blog post. This one is probably the easiest one to give you the example with. So this one just gives you lead magnet ideas. And I just click there to start and it's going to ask me a few questions. What kind of coaching do you do? Who's your ideal client? What's the number result or transformation you get? So by giving it the information that it needs, it's going to give me some ideas for my lead magnet. And this is something that you can really use in terms of your tools. So, for instance, one of the things I would do during the session with the client is we usually create the content plan, we do SEO research, we find the keywords. And then the client's next step is to actually come up with some lead magnets ideas for each category in their blog when they're going to use a blog, or for each category of their videos when they're going to use a YouTube strategy. And what tends to happen is that then I can give them this tool and they can actually work with this tool. It is saving them money because we are not spending time doing this on the session. But normally I would give them time to do this alone and then they would come to me with questions. So this is actually guiding them to actually do a much better job. And I think as coaches, this is exactly how we need to think. We need to think, how are we going to get them to actually do a better job? So to give you an example, I would say, okay, let's say I am a life coach for women in their 50s. And let's see, I help them, mm, I've helped them find more joy and fun in their daily lives. I'm making this up, right? It's like really basic. What format do you feel the easiest? Maybe the format should be, I like to have a small video and the PDF guide, because there isn't really an ideal format. It's like different courses for different courses, as they say. Some people prefer to read, some people prefer to listen, some people prefer to watch. So, you've got to kind of hit everyone a little bit. Okay, as you can see here, it's asking me more questions so that it wants to go into more detail, and it's going to give me sort of some ideas. So I'm telling him this, and it's going to keep going on, and it's going to give me, there you go, it's giving me the ideas for my freebies. And then what I could do as well is I want to say, okay, I want to align this one. Let's see. I want to align this one with my blog category. I don't know, let's call it Finding Joy. And then it will help me fine tune it a little bit better. And that's it. And as you can see, it's a simple tool that my clients can use and they can reuse in between sessions. And you can do this with all kinds of tools. Like when I was going through separation, my therapist taught me all these different tools to deal with things that come up, like triggers. And although I read all the books and did all the work, it seemed really hard to actually remember how to do that when the emotions come up. It's like when things happen. So something like this would have been so perfect. And in fact, I've been actually very tempted to reach back out to her and say, hey, should we create these things? Because I think it would be really nice for your clients to have them. Okay, that's so sort of thinking like that. How can you actually enhance your clients, enhance the experience with GPTs? Again, so what is the main difference? This advanced prompting is something you can use all the time on the free one. GPTs can only be created and saved on the $20 a month account on ChatGPT. Agents are also available in the paid one. Again, $20 a month. But they save you way more because if you had to get an assistant, it would be like. And agents can do a lot of things. I have been doing a lot of things with agents, but the first thing that I did when agents came out was actually I took pictures of my favorite recipes. I asked it to create a meal plan. Then I asked it to create a shopping list from the meal plan. And then I asked it to go to my favorite online shopping site and actually put everything in my shopping cart. And then what I did the second time round is I actually took pictures of my fridge and my cupboards and I said, sort of, do not buy the stuff that I already own. And then I asked it to go to previous shopping orders and actually understand and keep track of my favorite brands so that it wasn't just pick, any tin tomatoes or any coffee or any butter. It actually looked at my preferences and did that. So that's how powerful agents are on your personal life. And business, I mean, it can do things like your keyword research for you when you give it access to your keyword research tools. One thing I find it really fantastic for is my dashboard. So I keep a dashboard of statistics, like how many people visit my site, how many leads I get, how many people I close, social media statistics and things like that. So, and then this is like really amazing because agents can actually do that for you automatically. Okay, yes. So here I'm seeing James said a colleague who is more established saying great things from AI overview. Yeah. So in fact, that's a good point, James, because I did not mention the AI overview here, but I would it definitely needs the mention. So then we have deep research, which I mentioned before, which is just one of the modes of ChatGPT. And what that allows you to do is, for instance, go in and say, go on LinkedIn and find me all the posts that in the last 6 months have gone viral for this particular topic. And it will actually show you and get you a lot of ideas. And, you can also, if you're selling anything related to a particular product or a particular service, you can even take a look at what people are saying on review sites and so on. So it's like deep research is very good for getting what people are saying out there. It would be impossible for us to actually get that amount of information manually these days. Image generation is getting a lot better. Most of the images you've seen here including these, are actually created with AI. They're not fantastic, but I think they're really nice for the speed. And of course, you also want task-specific tools. For instance, one of the things that I use is that I have an AI tool that every time I publish a video on YouTube, turns it into about 20 shorts. Of course, it's AI and is reviewing, but it's a fantastic way of really speeding up and really getting your visibility out there. So yes, let's talk about the AI overview because that's very important. And for those of you who don't know what that is, I'm actually going to show you right now. So the AI overview is basically when you go to Google. Hang on a sec. Let's go to Google Drive. I'm going to share the page with you in just a sec. Let me find my Zoom button. So here we are. Yeah. So here, let's say I would say, I don't know. Let's see. Um, let's see the example we saw. We said life coaching for women in their 50s. Okay. And okay, this is interesting. Okay, see, we picked actually one that doesn't have AI overviews, which is very rare. I was actually doing some work for a client, helping her out. And let's see, we were looking for narcissistic mothers, actually. And I was quite surprised to actually find an AI overview for this. So this is what the AI overview is. This is basically Google's AI, which is called Gemini. And what it's doing is it's collecting a lot of information from a lot of different websites. And in fact, one of the tasks that I'm doing with my clients is actually helping them rank for the AI overview. In fact, here's my client right here. The big disadvantage with this is that it takes up most of the page. So if you're ranking in the first 4 positions, it's still going to be a little bit hard to be found. But it provides quite a lot of links to a lot of different sites. Of course, if you're one of the first 3 on the right over here, it's going to be the best thing that you possibly can do. And it has admittedly been a little bit volatile. But I have seen some great results actually optimizing for the AI overview. And basically, the way we optimize for the AI overview is quite simple. It's the same way we used to optimize for the snippet. So using things like table of contents, FAQs in your article, writing definitions, looking at what kind of questions. And in fact, one of the things I have been working on is actually a tool and the process to help people rank in ChatGPT and all the other LLMs. And we've had some amazing success, actually. In fact, if you go to your favorite LLM tool and ask it, who are the best marketing coaches for new coaches, you'll probably see my name there because we're actually working on that. We're doing some tests and we've had some great results. And in a way, it's kind of the same approach to rank for the AI overviews, which is basically tackling a lot of questions. And when it comes to getting organic visibility in Google and in the LLMs, what I'm seeing is that it's extremely question based. And we are seeing so many shifts in what's going on because people have changed the way they search. So we're not just looking at a technological shift here. We're looking at a mindset shift in the people who are actually searching. So I think that's why there is all this volatility right now. Obviously, the fact that they keep changing the layout of the Google results page has made a difference because there's been a lot of changes there. But hopefully all of this is settling. And I think that by the beginning of next year, we're going to see some solid results. And when it comes to social media and repurposing on social, I would say if you're at a point where you really need to grow your business, I would say focus on creating really great question-based content on your site. Definitely, if you can, go for video because it's coming up a lot in the LLMs as well as in the AI overviews. And bring it all together again. Go back to the foundations. Make sure that your foundations are clear and that everything on your site is clear. Because what happens is it's the same old thing. I think it was Seth Godin who said it first. If you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one. And within a lens, it's exactly like that. If you say that you're working with 3 or 4 different types of people, they're not going to know how to place you. They're not going to know what question you're an answer for. The more specific, the more niche based you are, the more high quality topics, testimonials, and clients' results you have on your site, the more likely you are to actually come up as an answer. That's as much as I can give you today. Please do pop your questions into the chat. If you want to, I am going to visit the chat in a second. I'm going to take a look. Before that, it's a webinar. So, I like to practice what I teach. So I did put together an offer for the webinar. It's a very basic offer. Any package you wanna go for in the next 3 months, you can get 25% off. And you're saying, okay, why are you doing it a whole 3 months offer? It's because I'm running a lot of tests. So basically, I am at the stage right now where I'm developing a lot of new strategies that I'm teaching. And one of them is actually to do regular webinars, like I used to do in the old days. I'm experimenting with different types of ads, also with organic. This was in fact a completely organic webinar. And basically, if you want to talk to me, you can actually. I'm going to put the link in the chat because I just realized I forgot to put it in my presentation. So it's stephaniefitani.com/call. It's quite simple. And if you want to talk to me about anything that we've spoken to on this webinar, you can book a 20-minute session. If you're interested in working with me, you can do that as well. And there is a 25% offer, but I'm not going to open a lot of seats with the 25% off. It's only going to be 2 spots per month. So if you want to talk to me, this is the first time I'm talking about it in October, so you still have time. I've actually opened some sessions for tomorrow morning, so if anyone wants to jump on that fast, they actually can. Okay, so let's see if we have any further questions. Yes. Okay, we have the one about AI. Okay, so we don't really have any more questions, but I am just looking at the chat. Yes. Okay. Very good. So, well, we've gone a little bit over time. Uh, okay. I keep seeing the messages pop up, but I can't see any new ones. Um, oh, I see. Okay. So some people are sending private messages to me and some people are going in the chat. Okay, that's why I'm getting a little confused. Okay, very good. Excellent. Okay, but I think more or less I have answered all of these. Very good. Um, yeah, I think we've answered them in the chat. If you feel like I haven't, please do let me know. But I think we have. Okay, so I have a process. Excellent. So I have a process that I use, but not as a set program. Does that matter? I think it does, and I'll explain. So actually, so if I understand you well, Paul, I believe this is a sort of a typical scenario where you have a process that you use with clients. You know it works. You know that the outcome works, but you're allowing clients to just sort of book the next session every time. Um, you want to clarify that? So this is something that I have seen before. I hope I'm not misunderstanding you. Do let me know if I am. So generally, it is much better for you and for the clients to actually book a number of sessions. So one of the ways, I actually have a couple of videos on YouTube about this. One of the best ways to develop a package, a set program, is to say, okay, so if my client had to go through my whole process and they had to have the right amount of time and the right amount of support to really achieve their goal, what would that look like? And this is basically the question you need to ask yourself to go and design this program. Now, you may not get it, it's like not everyone's the same, and you may not get it right from the onset. But generally, people go for about 12 sessions. And then usually in 12 sessions, you can actually build a program where people can actually get pretty good results. And what tends to happen then is that as you go along, okay, so I have 3 programs, 3 sessions, 7 sessions with a guarantee, and 8 months, but they don't have a set course of events. Oh, I see. Okay, so what you can do is this, which is actually what I like to do. So I do have a process and I do have a signature process and a signature program. But to be honest and to be fair, coaching is always going to be customized because, people are different and there are going to be things that we need to customize so that they get better results. So here's what you can do. You can actually have what I call a mapping call in the beginning. So the first thing I do with my clients is we actually have a free additional call in the beginning, which is like an onboarding call. And during this call, I just ask them a lot of questions to understand their goals, their difficulties, their history, so that I can really, really deeply understand the clients I'm going to be working with. And then from my knowledge of obviously all the clients that I've worked with, I will go to each session and I will send them a summary of what I believe we should work on in every session. What this does is it's actually based on my process, but it is customized for all based on all the information they have given me. Again, it is not set in stone. If someone decides that they want to change course halfway through, they can. But it really helps. And I find people achieve much better results when they can actually see how the whole program is going to work and they know exactly what's going to happen in each session. So potentially, Paul, this could be a good way for you to do it because you know your process, you know what works, you know why you're giving them results. You seem to also know how much time that takes because you have, very a set amount of sessions. So I think that would really help you. Let me know if that works for you. Okay, so let's see. Do you have any other questions? Feel free to pop them into the chat. Um, and I am going to stop the share because that's all I had for you today. One thing I'm going to do as as a follow up to the school, I'm going to send you the slides, and it's not in this one, but I did already show you the GPTs. And what I'll do, I will send you the links to a couple of the GPTs. Um, in the actual slides so that you can actually check them out because actually everyone has access to them. If you have the paid version of ChatGPT, you can actually use those. You can use those GPTs for your marketing right away. Again, thank you very much for staying with me till the end. Um, I'm just taking a quick look at the chat. But okay, I don't see any new messages. Thank you very much for being with me. If you have any questions, as usual, you can reply to my emails, and I do check them personally. And hopefully, I will see you again in the next webinar. Thank you so much.